Hello everybody, this is Terry Mitchell with the Voice on Fire interview series. I'd like to welcome you and everybody that is listening, no matter where you are in the world. The excitement builds today because I get to interview Fabiola Campbell, who I will come to in just a moment. Hi Fabiola.
Hello Terry, how are you?
I'm excellent, so good to have you here. So for those people who are not familiar with the Voice on Fire series, it's become my mission to share the messages of all of the amazing emerging change makers, difference makers and life influencers across the globe. So these are people that are founders, curators, creators, people that want to make a difference to our global village and are contributing in amazing ways. And Fabiola is one of those people. So I would like to start out by not only have we welcomed you, now Fabiola is in Melbourne, Victoria, as am I, so I get to interview a local, which is fantastic. And I would like to start by Fabiola asking you, share what it is that you do and tell us about the Professional Migrant Women Mentoring Group.
Well, first of all, Terry, thank you so much for having me in your interview today. I do appreciate this opportunity. And I appreciate these opportunities because I get the chance to share what I do with many people all over the world. So this is awesome. Thank you for that. And as you said, I do run a group that is called the Professional Migrant Women Group. And at the group, what we do is that the mission of our group is to close the gap between migration and professional employment for women. Right now, we are working from Melbourne, Australia, but everything is possible, especially nowadays. So what do we do at the group? So one of the things that I've noticed, personally, when I moved to Australia, so I come from Venezuela. I am a criminologist by that's my first career, my first degree, and I was working as a criminologist in Venezuela. Then I moved to Australia. Having my qualifications recognized was not such a big problem for me. That was actually not that hard. And one of the biggest obstacles for me was to learn the language, and that took me a while. But even when my qualifications were recognized and my English was good enough for me to get a professional job, I found it very hard to navigate the ways in which I could get a job in Australia.
Okay.
And even though it wasn't that easy, I actually had a lot of help from people around me that were very familiar with the techniques and with the things that I needed to do in order to get a job. So how to write a resume, how to do a job interview, and that kind of things. However, I think one of the things that I struggled with the most was to establish a professional network. And mind you, I've been in Australia for 15 years. Talking about a professional network in the way we talk about these days, it was completely different. Probably that term wasn't very socialized back then, but I can see how important that is for anybody to get a job. And I ask people all the time, you know, how did you get your first job? Say when you were in high school or when you were younger, probably not your first professional job, but how did you get your first job? And the most common answer is, well, yeah, it was through my mom's friend, or it was through my neighbor, or it was through my high school friend's dad or mom or something.
Yeah.
And that is the basis, you know, that's how we start with our professional careers. So we move from that supermarket checkout position into something a little bit higher or something else, or a different career path altogether. Then people graduate from university, they acquired, you know, different skills, and they already have the skills that they need to get a job, and they have now professional knowledge to pursue a professional career. So for migrant women, a lot of that background work is missing. And so nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows that university where you studied. That doesn't mean anything for anybody in Australia.
Yeah.
And you're not fully aware or able to communicate what is that you do in the Australian way. You know, probably in your own country, in your own language, you are very capable of expressing all of those things, but there are ways of doing it in every country. And I think, and that is what I perceive is the value of the group that we have. Because what we do is that we help women to close that gap between migrating to Australia and getting a professional job. I mean, some of these women come with years of experience in their particular area. And when they come here, they really struggle to get a job. So why is it? And we have identified some of those things, and then we help them close that gap.
Wow. I have to say that is so awe-inspiring, and having also the advantage of personally attending one of your functions or events that you have where you have the mentoring taking place, or you have some sort of training taking place for the participants of this mentoring group. I've seen in action the passion that is delivered in helping these ladies. I've seen the connections where the ladies feel like they belong somewhere. And I had a chance to talk to some of them, and I found one of the prevailing messages that came through was, as you've mentioned, some of these ladies have amazing dual qualifications. I felt insignificant around them. I mean, I have my own qualifications, but these ladies are like chemical engineers with a background in psychology or some, look, and honestly, they floor me, because what I noticed was how so many of them feel inadequate or insecure and very, very reserved. So it's interesting, you mentioned that you've identified some of the issues that these ladies bring to the group. Do you want to just share a little bit more about that and what sorts of things you've identified as some of those things that cause that gap you've been talking about?
Well, yes. So the purpose of the group is in threefold, I suppose. So the first purpose is to build connections. I mean, you've been talking about that. One of the main objectives for us is to build a tribe, to build that network, like maybe small network, close relationship network. So we know that we can count on somebody. Remember that when these migrant women come here, usually they come by themselves. Some of them come with a partner from their own country, or some of them might find a partner here. However, the main thing is that regardless of, you know, the situation that they're in, so single with a partner from their countries or with a partner from Australia, the support network is not big. It's actually quite small. And one of the things that we do quite consciously and purposefully in the group is to build that network or to build that support group. The second thing that we do in the group is to build up the professional skills. I read somewhere that your lack of, so it was your English language doesn't determine your IQ.
Of course.
So not because you don't speak English properly means that you're not smart. And as you said, Terry, you know, some of these women are very well qualified with a lot of years of experience, but what they're missing is the Australian way,
Mm-hmm.
the local way of doing things. And probably some awareness in the space of professional development.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the things that we do? We run workshops on how to do a LinkedIn profile, how to improve your profile as well,
Mm-hmm.
how to do networking. What are the things that you need to do when you are networking? How to build that self-esteem and self-confidence, because this is one of the biggest issues for women when we move to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything we've known about ourselves seems to be irrelevant when we move into the new country. So all our background is like that big part of your history as a person is erased, and suddenly you find yourself as an empty vessel, which I think, is hard. It's very hard for people to come to that point, but it's also a great opportunity because although it might feel like an empty vessel, we still have a lot of amazing things in that container, and we have the opportunity to fill it up with more things that will only help us with our growth. So in most of these countries where these women are coming from, they already have networks. They have natural networks. Networks from their family, their high school friends, their university friends. So those networks are created. And when they come to Australia, they find that they have to do networking. And they've never done that before in a purposeful way. And that could be quite confronting, especially if English is not your first language, especially if you're not an outgoing person, especially if you are doubting yourself. Yes. So networking is a big, big thing for us. And also, once people have overcome these obstacles of getting a good resume, getting a good cover letter, is about how to get through a job interview. What are the techniques that we use here in Australia to do a good job interview that ultimately will land us that job that we want? Again, around this space, the comments that I've heard is, I never had to do a job interview in my country because, I got my first job through a friend at university, and then I got promoted in the organization because of my skills. So I never had to apply for a job. I never had to do a job interview. And in here, well, it's very different. And if people don't know how to build the narratives for those interview questions, then it could be challenging. It could come across as unclear. It could come across as not being ready. And I dare say it could come across as not being an intelligent person when none of those things are true. So what we do is that we share with people the STAR model for interviews, and we practice and practice and practice. And we build these foundations for good interview skills. And I just would like to share that, as time goes by and people keep implementing those strategies, the skills have gone, up the roof. And the jobs interviews are better and better every day. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Oh, look, absolutely. What you've outlined there is quite phenomenal, and it really does make people, I guess, sit back and think about what it must be like. For those of us like myself who've never traveled overseas as a person to live somewhere else, even as a holiday or anything like that. I've been overseas, but not for long periods. The adjustment, it must be so difficult, and we perhaps take for granted that, the Australian way, for example, is just how it is. and we perhaps don't stop to think about how daunting our interview process is. And I certainly find interviews intimidating and uncomfortable personally, and I know that I can communicate very adequately, and I still find that there's that limitation within an interview, that almost where there's an expectation, as you've mentioned, some of the things that you highlighted these women go through, is that feeling like you're coming across like you're not very smart, or that you might be anxious, or that you don't have a lot of self-belief. And I go through that on an interview, so I can only imagine that sort of emotional state and anxiety is amplified for ladies who are going through that self-doubt about their abilities in an unknown situation. So it's excellent that you are putting the spotlight on such things as the resume and the interview techniques and just the ways to do things here in a country that they obviously feel that they want to be in. It's obviously a very welcoming country in a lot of ways, but there are some things we don't do very well here in Australia. And it's so nice to hear that there is a mentoring group, and what you're doing is amazing to help women of another culture or background to feel welcome and feel like they stand a chance to be a contributing member to a beautiful community. So I applaud you for what you're doing. Something that I would like to ask you is, in terms of your own story, you mentioned that you didn't have too many challenges. There were some difficulties that you've certainly had, without doubt, and you've touched on those. What was it that made you feel that creating a mentoring group was the step to take? What was the seed or the kernel of thought that you felt you could nurture? Tell me a little bit more about that personal experience.
Yeah, sure. So I did say I was fortunate that I didn't have many challenges in getting my qualifications recognized and being able to apply for jobs. And I mentioned that because, you know, that is a very good position to start with. You know, many of these women have to get themselves to that point. But my point as well was that even when I was at that privileged position, there were many challenges for me to overcome, and some of those are those that I've explained before. Now, that personal experience, and guess what, Terry? This is the interesting thing for me. Yep, it was hard for me to get my first professional job. Then I was very fortunate to move up and across within the same organization. They already knew me, they knew my work ethics, they knew what I was capable of, and I had really positive relationships in that organization. Now, then there is a second challenge or a second wave for me. I got pregnant, I had my son, I went on maternity leave, and ultimately I resigned from that job. I took some time off, like many women in Australia do after they have a child. And because I wasn't linked to that job anymore, I have to start doing a job search. Now, even then, when I had, so by the way, I did complete a qualification here in Australia. I did a Master's of Business Administration. So I had my undergrad qualifications recognized. I did have a master's degree. I did have professional experience in Australia. And then changing jobs, finding a new job, especially after maternity leave, it was very challenging. So I knew how I knew how to do a good resume, cover letter. I moved geographical places. So I was still in Melbourne, but in very different areas. So I lost my networks. And it was still very, very challenging for me. So, and finally, I broke through that again and got another professional job. So if that was what I was experiencing, having all of this benefits, then I know what it's like for women that don't even have that, basis, and I have helped many of my friends with their cover letters and their resumes and preparing for job interviews. And then I keep hearing, these things from other people, oh, how did you do that? How did you find your first job? What was your experience? And that was the catalyst for me. Okay. That was the catalyst because, at that point in my life, I was looking for something that I could do that could give me meaning, but that it could contribute in some way. Yeah. And that was the one thing that I thought, well, I can relate to these women and I know how to do it. Mind you, at this point in my career, I am a corporate trainer, so I do train staff members in an organization, and I do that as my main job. So I'm quite familiar with some of these techniques that I'm sharing with these women. And so I was able to very quickly, I suppose, create a model to pass on to these women the information that they needed and the experiences that they needed in order to get themselves or to position themselves in a way that they were ready to get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really, it's quite critical, really, isn't it, that we're able to pass on knowledge to those we see in need of that knowledge, because we know we've been there. And I think that's a really critical component of something that's becoming really prevalent in our new world that we're experiencing because of COVID. It's more about sharing. We're becoming really sensitive to the notion that we do need to be more supportive and share and connect and be that point of encouragement for others. And it's amazing to see how you have taken that from a seed of thought. And how long now have you been in operation from the first moment through to the formal processing? How long has all of that process been now?
So I started thinking about, what do I want to do, etc. So I knew I wanted to do something around diversity and about women. I just didn't know what or how. And I started listening to podcasts and listening, to or watching videos, reading books, getting some ideas, educating myself. And suddenly, because of these conversations that I was having with other women, it occurred to me, well, this is one thing I could do. And I think that aha moment came about August 2019. I've been doing some public speaking, and that's when I started hearing from these women, how can I do that? How can I, is there any way that you can help, etc. So that was August 2019. And I started, maturing this idea of how am I going to do this. So what I did, I thought, okay, I'm going to book a room where I can hold these meetings, and I'm just going to put a post on Facebook and communicate with some of these women that I've talked to, and put it out there to see if anybody is interested. And I have told this story many times. I was absolutely terrified when I did that. I did doubt myself many times, I was very, very afraid of putting that out on Facebook. And the things that were going through my mind were things like, would anybody respond? Will anybody be interested? And even if they are, am I going to be able to add any value? Am I any good? Do I have the tools? All of those things. Anyway, 3 people registered. And my first thought was, nope, I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna return the money, and yeah, this is like never happened. And but you know, I got a bit of courage somehow, and I thought, no, well, let's do this, and we started. I had a plan. I had a view of what they needed, but they told me what they needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from there, the whole thing took off. So I went back to, you know, the drawing board. I put in place the things that they wanted out of the program, and basically it was about interviewing skills and networking skills, or how they could be connected to other people.
Yeah.
So that's how the program was born. So our first meeting was the 6th of October last year. From memory, it was a Monday. But it was the first Monday of October. And I ran an 8-week program from October to December. We couldn't have every week, so sometimes it was every second week because of the room that we have. It was already booked on certain days, and we learned a lot of things from that trial. And it was amazing. So for about 2 or 3 sessions, we just have the 3 participants and myself. And from November onwards, so the 4 weeks of November plus 1 or 2 in December, we consistently were getting 10 people in the room, you know, and sometimes people came back, or sometimes, you know, it was a one-off. And, you know, the comments were always very positive. So we started building like a following, and we started developing that, you know, growing that interest out there in the community. And that gave us enough presence out there for us to put a full mentoring program from January to June. So
wow.
Now what we do is that we meet every second week, and it's a 6-month program.
Wow.
And why do we do this on a long-term basis? Again, I think that's one of the missing pieces in this puzzle. So there are a lot of organizations, and fantastic organizations, that do a fantastic job to teach you how to write a resume, a cover letter, and give you some ideas on how to do a good interview. But these courses are usually 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. And after that, you are on your own.
Exactly.
Now, what I know from my personal experience is that getting a job is not a quick turnaround, especially when you're not a local person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could take, like in the best case scenarios, it could take about 3 months.
Yes.
And, you know, for most local people, that's the average time to get a new job, let alone for a migrant. So, and what happened is that when all of these amazing short courses finished, you still didn't have a tribe. You still didn't have that support network, that close support network. And then you were back on your own, back, you know, inside your mind with your negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And thinking, you know, I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. So what do? We actually extend that period for 6 months to be able to support these women through the ups and downs, but also for them to get really good, to hone those skills that they need, networking and interview skills, and all the other professional development tools that we throw at them as well. But I think that one of the biggest difference that we have as a program is that time that we allow people, or that we give to people, so they can build the things that they need. connections, networks, and skill development.
Yeah, wow. I'm absolutely in awe of what you do. I think it's amazing, and I have had the privilege to watch the progression of this particular social enterprise as it's emerged and grown. And to say that I am proud of you is an understatement. You are astounding, and I certainly think that you have so much to offer. And I've seen in the room how the ladies, they seem to gravitate around you, and I notice they all seem to want to support you because you're giving something to them that is fundamental to feeling like a connected social human being, and that is you're hearing them, you're listening to them, you're showing understanding and compassion, but you're also helping them develop confidence in themselves again, which I can completely believe is something that is not only missing but feels shattered at times. As you say, empty vessel, there's just nothing there. They feel so overwhelmed. I had the privilege of chatting to one of the young ladies from your group, Valentina, and an absolutely amazing young woman, and the difficulty that she was experiencing, and she shared that with me, and my heart just went out to her. But she spoke so highly of your organisation and what you're doing and how it makes a difference. And it's really important that we take these lessons and see there is always something within ourselves that we can offer back to the community. And I tend to believe in the mindset that where you are in the community, in your society, in your culture, wherever you are in that, there is somebody who aspires to be you. You are in some way an inspiration to somebody because they are where you once were and they aspire to be where you are now. And there is always this opportunity for every one of us, whenever we've overcome an obstacle, overcome a hurdle, overcome a crisis and developed any sense of that confidence and ability to progress, I think it's really important that we share that information and be that inspiration and always bring somebody ahead with us. So I see what you do, and I totally see that the women involved, and I think there were about 30 at the last group that I was at, which they gravitate to that because they feel that there's somebody who understands the situation that they're in. So kudos to you. I think what you do really inspires a lot of women, and the group, I see it growing phenomenally. But I want to talk about one other experience that I have shared with you in regards to your Professional Migrant Women Group. And I'd like for you to talk about it. The forum that you hosted, which was just amazing, because I didn't even try to count how many people were in the room, but I suspect it was in excess of 100 people, men and women of all walks of life who were at the forum. So share a little bit about what that was, a little bit of the story, how that came to be, and what the purpose behind it was, and where that was for you.
Yes, so thank you about that. I just want to also add something else to the previous comments that you made. Yes, people want to be acknowledged, they want to be recognized, they want to feel that they belong, but you know what? These women are professional women and they want to contribute.
Absolutely.
And it's so important for them to be able to do so. Especially when you have trained hard, when you have had experience, and then you stay home with your arms crossed, doing nothing. That's quite frustrating for these women. So they really want to have a fair go at contributing and being a contributing member of society. So I think that's very, very important for this group of women. Back on to your comment about the event that we hold in March. So there are two things about that event. That was the International Women's Day event that we hosted. And that was an opportunity for us to do two different things. Number one, talk about this thing of being a professional migrant. So highlight all of these issues that come with being a professional migrant. And obviously, the other big one for us is about connecting and reaching out and growing our community and our tribe, because we know that this is a very, very important need in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back about bringing awareness to this situation, I think that professional migrants are in a very difficult situation. You know, well, if you are a professional, you should know better.
Mm.
It's like that assumption that, well, if you have gone through university, if you have had a job before, you should know better. You should know what to do. And while I've worked in the community sectors all my life, in local government mainly, and yes, there are a lot of programs to support refugee migrants, to support asylum seekers, to support people with lower levels of skills, but really the professional migrants really don't get that support.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a gap. There is a gap that have to be filled, and not many people are addressing that gap. As I said before, yes, there are some amazing organizations that are helping out people with creating resumes and cover letters and so on, but it is more than that. It's about, so the forum came up, so the forum was about the opportunities and challenges for professional migrant women in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas, you know, something that come across very clearly out of those discussions were that, yeah, we as women, we have each other and we should champion and support each other, especially in a male-dominated environment and culture in general. And the other thing that came across very strongly for me out of that conversation was that those women are the opportunity.
Mm.
They themselves are the opportunity because they have the skill, they have the knowledge, they have the potential. So the main thing that we need to do is to give people the opportunity. And for me, this is so close to my heart, because I feel that the times that I've been able to grow the most is when somebody has given me a chance, when somebody have believed in me or have seen the potential that I have, and they have allowed me to have a go, to make a mistake, to go for it.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, that's what I would like to encourage people to do.
Mm.
Get to know one of these women, or get to know one of these migrants. I mean, I work with women because that's what's close to my heart. But it could be any migrant, men or women. So give these people a chance. Sit down and talk to them and find out what they have to give. Because as you have experienced, Derry, some of these people have qualifications, have experience, have so much to give to our society, to our community, and it is a missed opportunity for some of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I read a stat not long ago that said that 40% of professional migrant women never get a professional job.
Really? The numbers are that high? Wow.
It is high. It is ridiculous. And of course, there are many things to that story, you know, but 40% is way too high.
Yeah.
And the purpose for us is to make sure that we do everything that we can so that gap is shortened, and that we we give the women the opportunities that they need for them to do and to be what they want to be. And if that is being professionals or being in a professional job, then, you know, that's great.
That is incredible. I think you've highlighted so many valuable points there. And as you mentioned, that, you know, a lot of these people that come from another country have a wealth of knowledge, experience, and not only that, I think one of the things that we could talk about, and we could probably talk about this for a very long time, things like resilience and courage and bravery, the ability to choose to leave your most familiar of home countries. Now, we could talk about the reasons why people do that, but it's such a personal thing. Everybody's journey and everybody's reason for leaving the country that they've left behind and come to Australia or to America or the UK, those familiar spots where we assume a lot of migrants want to go to, when we know that they leave their home country, their place of birth, their culture, their origins, and they do so for reasons we may never understand. I myself would never be able to understand. I have a very good imagination and a great deal of empathy and compassion, so I can imagine, but I can never know because I've never been in that situation. And I think we have to be able to respect that. And I use myself as examples in a lot of this because, you know, I feel very privileged. I've grown up in Australia. I've had access to a lot of resources and facilities of a country of Australia's existence. And I don't know another language. Now, that's a story in itself, but I don't know another language. I speak Australian English. That's all I know. And when I'm around people that can speak multiple languages, I am in absolute envy because I've just been mentally lazy. I know that I could have pursued it in the many years that have intervened since school. And I'm dabbling with German and I've looked at Spanish and I'll start. I know that I'm interested in learning another language, but I recognize for myself how difficult I find that. And I don't have to learn that language in order to get by. So there's no pressure on me. So it's like, it's not an important part of the puzzle for me. So I'm able to look at, just as my own experience, I don't have another language. So there is that awesome awareness of those who bring another language to the table. And also on top of that, the courage, the resilience, the bravery, the get up and go, that whatever it's taken, they could be leaving because they want to just have another way of life and they've heard that Australia's pretty good. So it can be a positive reason to do so. But it could also be an absolute hellish reason that they're leaving their country and they have to because survival is in the balance. So we have to be able to be compassionate and understand, why are people leaving the countries? I don't like to get into political arguments or discussions with anyone over these sorts of issues because I'm not in a position to know. And I encourage everybody who hears this interview to be open and receptive to the knowledge that the people that are coming to countries like Australia, the English-speaking countries like Australia, America, the UK, when they come here, we don't know the reasons. So it's up to us as much as it is up to the immigrant population. They want to be here. They do want to integrate. Maybe they need a little bit of helping hand, which your enterprise is amazing for doing. But it is also up to us to be compassionate and just open the ears, listen, open the heart, be compassionate. Welcome these people and find out, as you say, sit down, have a coffee with them, have a tea with them. Just ask them, tell me more about you. I'd like to know. Tell me your story. Because everyone's got a story and, you know, sometimes they just need to feel heard, validated and respected. And I think those qualities, I think COVID-19 is starting to show us that, that the world is a global village and we are becoming more connected. As you and I are doing here on Zoom, there are so many Zoom interviews and communications happening around the world, even as we speak. We're becoming more connected, and it means being able to recognise and acknowledge people who are different from ourselves, that their only difference.
And if I might,
yeah.
So if I might add to that, as well, Terry. I think, I mean, you are so right when you say that some of these people are very resilient and that they have developed so many other skills around it. But, you know, one of the values for employers is that these people bring a different point of view. Mm-hmm. They bring a diverse point of view. And that in this H&A, that's gold. When we surround ourselves with people that are just like us, we're going to get the same results. It's that saying, yeah, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. Mm-hmm. Or you can expect to get different results. So, and we know that the world that we live in is constantly changing. And in order for us to be in the forefront of change, we have to surround ourselves by diverse people. And I think this is an amazing asset that these professional migrants bring to the table, as well as, you know, because of all of these obstacles that people have to overcome, and they become more resilient, they also become more entrepreneur. And they bring that entrepreneurship mind into the workplace. Somebody could call them professional entrepreneurs, you know, and they are the ones that bring the new ideas, the ones that bring the new ways of doing things in their own professional employment. So I think, you know, these are very, very strong qualities of these professional migrants in the Australian society.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing that we can add to that also is quite often these particular people, whether they be the professional migrant ladies or even the gentlemen out there, they want to work and they will work, and their work ethic their work ethic is beyond comprehension, because they know what it's like to not have that work, and they need the job in order to not so much form their identity, but to help them re-establish their identity. Because as you say, that's that empty vessel feeling. You've left everything behind. You know you're qualified. You know you could talk in your own language with unbelievable capability to express all there is to know about your job and your skills and what you do and your passions. But you're in a room where you can't even mumble the first word in the language that's around you, and you don't understand what anyone's saying around you. How can you communicate? Now, we're thankful, and I must admit we are all grateful and thankful for technology, but I think one of the things that I wanted to touch base on with regards to this conversation is we're probably in a very fortunate situation, just in the era that we're in, COVID or not, that there is the technology where we can start to use things like the language, what's the word? The interpretation skills. So you can speak into your phone, and the software will convert things. So we're opening up by using technology an opportunity to at least become communicative and to be able to share our thoughts. But at the same time, you have to be around people that are willing to listen, and we need to be in that position where, you know, people are learning, I believe, that we've all got much more to give, and if we don't accept change, and if we don't look at how COVID, for example, is causing so many differences in our world, the upheavals, the chaos, the opportunities, the challenges, if we don't begin to see this as the community global village experience that it really is, some people will be left behind, and, you know, it won't necessarily be the, you know, the standard Aussie who's in a job, you know, or the migrant person. It'll be the person who's not willing to accept and, you know, make change. And certainly, as you're demonstrating through what you've explained about the Professional Migrant Women Group, they're very open to change because they are living proof of it. You know, they're very open to new ways and bringing new thoughts and sharing those thoughts. Because of their experiences, we've just got to have an open environment, an open culture that's willing to hear that. So, you know, there's so much opportunity, provided we're playing our role in allowing that to happen.
Yes, and if I can add, a positive spin to that, Terry. So as I mentioned before, one of the focuses for us in the mentoring group is to expand these women's networks. In order for us to achieve that, what we do is that at every mentoring session, we hold a job interview for one of the members.
Okay.
And the interview panel is actually made up by professional people that are actually working in Australia, that are employed and that already have those professional networks because of, because they are local people, because they have been working for a while in any organization, etc. So what we do, every session we bring 3 of these people that volunteer their time to be part of that job interview.
Excellent.
In fact, the only thing that we want somebody that is willing to contribute to our group is to make themselves available for 2 hours in one semester.
Wow.
So in that way, women are exposed to different people in every session, and in that way, they start building their professional network. And one of the things that I want to say is that we have had such a positive response to this call. When we make a call and we ask somebody, would you like to be part of the interview panel and help these women? I have had 90+ success rate with these.
Wow.
And what happened after that is that we encourage our women to get in touch with these panel members and take them out for a coffee or catch up for a phone call or something. And people are very generous with that, with their time. So that thing that you were saying before, okay, sit with somebody, hear the story, hear what they're capable of. Actually, there are quite a few people that are connected to our organization that are actually doing that.
That's awesome.
And those are the ones that are opening the doors for this amazing group of women to finally get the job that they want.
Yep.
So I think that as a society, the Australian society is very open. And I think it's a matter of finding an opportunity for these 2 different group of people to meet and to build those relationships. And I think that's one of the things that we are doing well at the program.
Excellent, excellent. Wow, it's been an incredible conversation. So much territory that we've covered. I have one last question for you before we finish up. Where do you see this particular group in 5 years' time? Do you have a global mission, and how do you see the next 5 years unfolding?
Right. Do I have a global mission? You know what, Terry, I can answer that question in 2 ways. Number one, I come from Venezuela. Venezuela have been experiencing a lot of migration due to their own political circumstances, social political circumstances. So a lot of people have left the country. But guess what? That's not exclusive of Venezuela. Many other countries in the world experience hardship, and they look for new ways of earning a living and making a better life elsewhere. And I think we are becoming a world of migrants. I don't think that this trend is going to stop. I mean, obviously the current circumstances are such that don't allow for that, but I think this trend will continue beyond COVID. So that's one thing. I think that there are migrants all over the world, and when I talk to my friends that are living in different parts of the world, they experience similar situations to the ones that I'm experiencing, even when they've moved to countries where they speak the same language.
Okay.
Because some of these things go beyond the language, and it's about connecting with the culture and understanding what they need to do in order to get that job that they want in that new country. And the other thing is that, through all my training and through all my experiences, I participated in programs that that are part of an international networks. Network. Say, for example, Toastmasters.
Okay.
BNI, Business Network International. So I've been members of organizations like these for different periods of times, and I've learned a lot from these organizations. And these organizations are global organizations. So yes, when I was creating this program, I did take elements from different things that I've learned in my life, because I want to project this as an organization that can help migrant women no matter where they are. And so our next step is to go into different states in Australia. So our very first step is to go into new suburbs in Melbourne, and that will be happening as of July this year. So we will have more than one group, but then, you know, have also presence in different parts of the country, because people are asking for it.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a very solid methodology that can be passed from group to group, so we can plant these seeds all over the country and hopefully all over the world. Why not?
Fantastic.
Let's take that on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's what drives my mission with these interviews is the people that I'm interviewing all have something that they've created, founded, or are part of that has the potential to change some area of their focus, whether it be, you know, to do with connections and encouraging people of another culture to find their way in the world, or whether it be, you know, education or youth or women, or, you know, just there's so many people that I'm going to be interviewing as part of this, and each and every one of them has something that they can take to the world. And that's what this is about. It's about the global village. To me, it's all about, you know, I use this terminology a little bit loosely. It's the win-win-win. It's a win because I want you to be able to share your message. It's a win because I get to share in the joy of sharing these messages. But it's also a win for anybody that hears about what you're doing and finds that they can get in touch with you. And they then realise that they can connect with you, which is what your organisation is really about, is connections and you know, sharing and creating and so many amazing things. So to wrap up today, I'm going to wrap up with my favourite 3 questions. We've already covered them off in the interview, but just as a final wrap up, what is it you do? Who is it you do it for? And why is it you do it?
So what I do is to create opportunities for migrant women to choose what career path they want in their life. And if they want to choose a professional career path, then so be it. I want to give them the tools for them to do that. Obviously, I do it for professional migrant women. Why do I do it? Well, I can say that I do it because I can. And that was a very powerful realization for me. I do it because I want to, and I do it because even though I don't know everything, I think I know enough. And so I want, and I know how I can support other people, then that is a great way for me to live my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what you do is amazing. And I would love to be able to make sure that people that are watching this interview after we upload it, that they have the opportunity to reach out and connect with you. This could be heard by anybody who needs your support or who wants to collaborate with you. So I will ask for you after we've completed here to make sure I've got the right details that will be uploaded as part of the description in the YouTube video when this is uploaded to YouTube. And the intention is to also have this split into podcasts. So that is coming, and we'll be able to share that as well. So I would love to say thank you so much, Fabiola Campbell, for an amazing interview regarding the Professional Migrant Women Group that you are the founder and principal mentor for. And I look forward to hearing more progress across the time from you and sharing more opportunities with you. But thank you so much for giving me your time today.
And thank you so much, Terry Mitchell, for giving me this opportunity, for providing this platform, not only for my voice to be heard, but what I feel is that I am carrying the voice of many women that are experiencing this situation. So on their behalf, I thank you for this opportunity.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a fabulous day wherever you are, and enjoy your afternoon, Fabiola.
Thank you, and you too, Terry. You take care.